Hello, classmates and colleagues. Today I'm going to be presenting my behaviors biography on A. Charles Catania. So, in the beginning, Anthony Charles Catania was born in New York, New York. He grew up in Manhattan, graduated high school in 1953 in the Bronx, more specifically, the Bronx High School of Science. Uh, he was born on June 22nd, 1936, educated at Columbia University, graduated there in 1958, and maintained or received his PhD in psychology at Harvard University. Took a very early interest in scientific pursuits. The date's active. As soon as he hit the ground running early on when with researching at Harvard. He became a research fellow in psychology, and that was supported by the B.F. Skinner National Science Foundation grant. And that was from 1960 to 1962, while earning his PhD. Smith and Klein at Smith and Klein French laboratories. He was a senior pharmacologist, and later on at NYU, he was an associate professor and professor, department chair there. And then later, he became, from 1998 to the present, he is a researcher at University of Maryland, Baltimore County. And there he's the program director of the Applied Behavior Analysis Master's Program, and he's also a professor emeritus. So, a few of the common themes of the articles that were referenced include phylogeny and ontogeny. They're frequently referenced, and the role of natural selection in determining behavior is central to many of his papers. Catania asserts that reinforcement refers to phenomena steeped in the realm of empiricism rather than on the theoretical plane of existence. He reiterates that cognitive psychology and behavioral psychology differ in how they view approaches to the causes of behavior. The cognitive psychology usually goes and refers to the brain and what happens in the brain. And in the behavioral psychology world, that would be a private event, and especially when you reference the mind. Um, Whereas behavioral psychology always takes into account the environment, hence why he frequently references phylogeny and ontogeny in his papers. One of the more interesting ideas Catania articulates is that the brain for the cognitive psychologist is equated to the mind, which is behaviorists a form of mentalism. So, and also Catania declares that the science of behavior is and should be exclusively the science of psychology, and the continuity of the field depends on the relationship and inextricable linkage. So, behavior is paramount for psychology to continue in Catania's mind. There you go, mentalism at play again. But um, when his research and his papers and his commentary on research absolutely reflect that psychology needs to stay the course when it comes to behaviorism and get away from more of the mentalistic approaches. So, in summation, Catania explores commonalities between Darwinian natural selection and operant shaping. Work that Skinner includes, work that was influenced by Skinner includes language evolution as it relates to the function of verbal behavior. Additionally, Catania believes that, behaviorally speaking, organisms evolved based on what capacity they had to behave, and all of their physiological systems associated with the organisms evolved in the science of behavior. So, when it comes to interviewing Dr. Catania, um, I really thought hard about these questions. And Catania makes some pretty strong claims about cognition as it relates to cognitive psychology. It would be interesting to hear conversationally what effect does he think that his comments on cognitive psychology have had. And the second question: what is your view on personal responsibility as it relates to behavior and crime? Most behaviorists may have a deterministic view of the world, but how do they reconcile that with morality? And we've read extensively in the Johnston book about determinism and free will and the effect of personal responsibility. It would be interesting to see, especially if you feel that, not if you feel, excuse me, mentalism again, especially if your position is that there if behavior is solely caused by environmental factors. Where does that leave you on the plane of morality? And my third question is really influenced by this line of thought. What would you think about ABA and its effect on schools? Should there be more of a holistic approach when it comes to trying to curb behavior and control behavior in schools, or should we focus on behaviors of the individual? Should we take a group approach rather than a individual approach, or should we stay the course and really focus on individual behavior? My fourth question: since phylogeny and ontogeny have been recurring themes in your papers, what has been the most impactful in terms of the research? Is there any one particular study that has stood out more than all the rest? And I would like to certainly read that and maybe see if in my studies I will draw the same conclusions as the research paper that has most impacted you. And then lastly, what other practical applications should be explored with regards to ABA? How do we get this behavioral psychology more mainstreamed? And final slide, contribution to behavioral analysis. Kennedy has produced many more papers than I read in this biographical account. He has dozens of papers. However, I just really picked apart 5 or 6. But within this subsection of these papers, the contributions that stand out the most are his reaffirmations on the role of environmental factors as influencers on behavioral outcomes. And the other one is mentalism has no reasonable role in behaviorism. Therefore, that's why this cognitive approach should be thrown out. And I think that's a very, very impactful contribution and insightful. Not sure where I stand on that as a budding behaviorist. However, I think that it's a really, really interesting perspective to take. And here's my reference page. So here are all the resource sources that I've used in collecting all of this information.